If you had to pick one way to be tortured, which one would you choose? Yeah, I know. Nobody wants to answer that. And honestly, that's the right call. But just in case you were curious, I've put together history's 10 most brutal torture methods ever recorded. That this is my personal ranking. From least worst, you'll wish you never watched this. Fair warning, by the time we hit number 1, you might regret clicking play. Let's get into it, because trust me, it only gets worse from here. 10. The breaking wheel looks like an oversized wooden wagon wheel. Sounds almost harmless, right? It's not. Not even close, originating in ancient Greece. The breaking wheel, also known as the Catherine wheel, was built for exactly one purpose, public. Execution through torture. The method was brutally simple. Tie the victim's hands and feet to them. Well, then systematically break every limb, one by one, until they were beaten nearly to death. After that, they'd be hoisted onto a stake and left to die, usually within hours. But that wasn't the only version. Some victims were strapped to the outside of the wheel and rolled down a hill. Others were swung over open flame, taking on burn after burn until the wheel itself caught fire, burning them alive, grim-starved. And we're just getting warmed up. 9. The Spanish tickler pitcher Wolverine's claws, or Freddy Krueger's glove, now swap the metal for something even less forgiving. The Spanish tickler was a set of long, sharp iron claws. Dragged slowly and methodically across a victim's entire body, sometimes deep enough to hit bone. If the blood loss didn't kill them, the infection that followed almost certainly would. Historians actually debate whether this device was ever truly used for torture, or if it's more myth than fact. Either way, compared to what's coming, this one's practically tame. Tame is a relative term here, though, because number 8 takes things somewhere far darker. 8. Bamboo torture, say the name out loud. What comes to mind? Getting beaten with bamboo rods? Bamboo splinters under the fingernails? Nope. It's worse, much worse. This method involved tying a victim directly over freshly planted bamboo shoots. Right before they were about to sprout. Bamboo grows unbelievably fast, up to 36 inches in just 24 hours, and as it grew, it would pierce straight through the victims' bodies in the most efficient version. Victims were positioned over multiple chutes angled to puncture vital organs like the heart and lungs. Most didn't survive past a single day. The worst part? Feeling it happen slowly, in real time. A fight between you and nature that you were never going to win. Things are about to get even more savage. 7. Blood Eagle Consider yourself warned. This one's brutal. The Blood Eagle was an ancient Viking torture method with one horrifying goal: rip the victim's ribs and lungs out through their back to full. In the shape of a pair of wings that it started with the victim bound and laid face down. A Viking would then cut into the back with a blade or axe with enough force to actually snap the ribs. Those ribs were then pulled outward, spread like wings. And the final, most gruesome step? The lungs were removed and draped over the exposed ribs to complete the looks. By the time that was finished, the victim was long dead, and often the body was displayed on a stake as a warning. Vikings did not mess around. If you thought that was as bad as it gets, buckle up. 6 of flaying a liver, this one's most straightforward, but it deserves its place on this list. Flaying alive was practiced across the world. But let's focus on how it was done in medieval Europe. Before the actual flaying began, the victim was softened up, either left in the sun until badly sunburned, or boiled alive. Also, the torturer could make cleaner, more precise incisions. The process usually started with a long cut down the thigh. In more extreme cases, torturers began with the face, the most painful spot. Given how many nerve endings control facial expression, once the cuts were made, the knives were set aside. And the torturer began peeling the skin off by hand, tearing it away from the muscle and nerves. Underneath, here's the horrifying part. This rarely killed the victim outright. A skilled torturer could keep someone alive for days afterward. Death eventually came from blood loss, infection, or hypothermia. The body left with no skin to regulate its own temperature. Number 5 trades physical agony for something that breaks the mind just as effectively. 5 of Chinese water torture are probably the most well-known method on this entire list. Even Mythbusters took a crack at testing it. The setup: the victim lies on their back, completely restrained, hands, feet, and head. Often blindfolded or kept in total darkness to maximize sensory deprivation. Directly above their forehead sits a bucket of ice-cold water. with a hole just small enough that drops fall at irregular intervals. Sounds almost gentle. It's not. This method is compounding. It gets exponentially worse the longer it continues. Most people only talk about the psychological toll, which is very real and can cause total loss of sanity. But there's a physical side too. Each drop slowly erodes the skin. A blister forms, then grows, and eventually every drop becomes genuinely excruciating that combine the physical pain with the mental deterioration. Then you get one of the most quietly devastating methods on this list, for more to go. And we're about to get a short breather before things get dark again. For White Room Tortureke, quick palate cleanser, because this video has gotten heavy. Back to it, White Room torture is the only purely psychological method on this list. But don't let the lack of physical pain fool you. It's absolutely brutal. This one's seen far more use in modern times, typically by governments trying to extract information. A single bright white light, always on. White clothing. White food. A single bright white light, always on. White clothing. White food. Nothing but total sensory deprivation. No color, no sound, no stimulation of any kind. Just you and your own thoughts. Within just a few days, this extreme isolation can cause severe psychological damage, depression, anxiety, hallucinations, even loss of consciousness. Survivors who've experienced it firsthand consistently say the same thing. Those who go in are never quite the same, if they make it out at all. And if it's doing a lot of work in that sentence, many victims attempted to take their own lives just to end the torment. Now back to the physical stuff, and it's about to get genuinely disgusting. 3. The Swedish drink list might be the single grossest entry on the entire list, that it dates back to the 30 Years' War 1618 to 1648 in Europe, used by Swedish mercenaries. Usually against German villages during raids, as a way to force people to reveal where valuables were hidden. So what exactly was the drink? A crude mixture of human or animal feces and urine, mixed together in a bucket. A literal poop smoothie. Victims were held down and force-fed this concoction. And if the mercenaries were feeling especially cruel, they'd wait until the victim's stomach bloated from the mixture, then apply pressure, either by poking it with a stick or walking across boards laid on their abdomens. It might not sound as physically devastating as some other entries, but the sheer grossness alone earns it a solid number 3. Numbers 2 and 1 both involve water. And one of them genuinely still creeps me out. 2. Keel hauling. Being a pirate wasn't nearly as fun as the movies make it look. Keel hauling used the keel, the very bottom of a ship, as the torture device itself. The victim's hands or feet were tied to a rope, and they were thrown overboard, then dragged underneath the hull from one side to the other, or about astern. You might think, just hold your breath and you'll be fine. Nope. Ocean currents are brutal, and the forces underneath a moving ship are strong enough to slam a victim against the hull hard enough to kill them outright. And if the blunt trauma or drowning somehow didn't finish the job, there was still the hull itself, coated in razor-sharp barnacles that would shred the victim's body as they were dragged across it. Water, drowning, blunt trauma, sharp objects. This method has it all. Personally, I hate the ocean, which is exactly why this one lands at number 2 for me now. The one I consider the single worst torture method in recorded history. 1. Scaffers in the boats, in my opinion. Nothing on this list comes close to this as a CAFISM, sometimes called being eaten alive, had a few historical variations, including a barrel method and a boat method. We're focusing on the boats. The small boats were nailed together to form a kind of floating coffin. The victim was sealed inside, face exposed, arms and legs left hanging outside the boat. So far, uncomfortable, but not unbearable. That changes fast. The victim was then force-fed massive amounts of milk and honey, which was also smeared over their exposed limbs. The honey attracted insects, and the forced feeding caused severe diarrhea, which built up inside the boat, drawing in even more pests, including rats. Feedings continued regularly, but the victim was left completely helpless and exposed the entire time, to insects, to rodents, to everything the mixture attracted. Slowly, they'd begin to be eaten alive, layer by layer. The worst part, to me, is the sheer duration. The human body can survive like this, being fed, being eaten, for an extended period. The longest documented case reportedly lasted 17 days. 17 days lying in your own waste, slowly consumed by insects, developing infection after infection, before finally succumbing to one of the most gruesome deaths imaginable. That's my personal ranking, and if you disagree, I genuinely want to hear it. Drop a comment with which one you think deserves the top spot here, and if you've got a minute, rank all 10 in your own order in the comments below. I'm curious how different everyone's list looks. Next video is going to be a lot lighter. I promise. This one got dark fast, oh. And if this is your first time here on the channel, so if you enjoyed it, consider subscribing. See you in the next one.